Welcome to the United States Holocaust Museum. The museum is located on the National Mall just south of Independence Avenue between 14th Street and 15th Street in Washington, D.C. It is open daily from 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. with the exception of Christmas Day and Yom Kippur. So let's go ahead and get started in the first exhibit. This here's the first exhibit. It is a permanent one of the museum known as the Holocaust. These are some artifacts that are included within this exhibit. It shows the rise of the Nazi Party in Germany from 1933 through World War II in 1939. This picture is also part of the Holocaust exhibit. It explains the evolution of Nazi policy towards the Jews, and it explains things from ghettotization, which is being put into segregated or isolated place, and it also explains mass murders and the gas chambers. So the artifact that is shown here in this picture is of a rusty milk can from the Warsaw Ghetto. It was used to hide and preserve documents of the Jewish life and death in the ghetto. The next exhibit here is Americans in the Holocaust. So this exhibit is a portrait of American society. It explains depression, isolation, and racism, shaped responses towards the Holocaust and Nazism. And it shows how much information was available to Americans at the time and why rescuing Jews did not become a priority. And as you can see on the picture on the left, it says, what did Americans know and what more could have been done? And then on the right here, it says the pressure to act. So this is the next exhibit, known as American Witnesses. This exhibit highlights the experiences of American men and women who saw just how awful everything was, the evidence of the Nazi crimes that were being taken place, and they started to help prisoners be brought back to life. So as you can see in the picture on the right-hand side, it says in the spring of 1945, the men and women serving in the U.S. Army were among the first Americans to encounter all of this evidence, and you can see what they witnessed and hear their testimonies. And then you can see the picture to the right of that sign of that man who is very thin. And so it just goes on explaining how these men and women were helping these prisoners, these ill prisoners, and helping bring them back to life and feeding them because they were starving. The left here is a bunch of shoes. This is one of the most impactful exhibits. There is over 4,000 shoes, and it is just showing everyone that lost their life in concentration camps. And it's hard to see in this photo, but there are baby shoes, women's shoes, men's shoes. And so I think that that is why it has become so impactful. And on the wall behind those shoes, it states, "We are the shoes, we are the last witnesses. We are shoes from grandchildren and grandfathers, from Prague, Paris, and Amsterdam. And because we are only made of fabric and leather and not of blood and flesh, each one of us avoided the hellfire. And so, as I said, this is one of the most impactful exhibits, and there are thousands and thousands of travelers from around the world who come to this museum just to see the shoes. The next exhibit is called 1078 Blue Skies. So this exhibit displays individual images of the sky photographed above every known Nazi concentration camp and killing center across Europe. So it just kind of shows like there was over 1,000 days of this happening, and just like the glimpse of sky each day during this. And um, it just helps us reflect on the camp system and the experiences that unfolded. So there ultimately was 1,078 patches of sky. Um, and then the last exhibit I want to talk about is Remember the Children, Daniel's story. So this is a primary exhibit for young people and their families. It tells the story of one family's experiences during the Holocaust from the perspective of their young boy, Daniel, who was growing up in Nazi Germany. So on the right-hand side here, it says Daniel's story. This is a story about a boy named Daniel. Visit Daniel's house where he lived with his family. Walk along a street in Daniel's town after the Nazis came to power. Daniel was sent away to the ghetto. See how hard his life was. See how Daniel survived the concentration camp. And then at the end of the exhibit, you are allowed to ask questions and think about your feelings and write down your thoughts. So as you can see in the bottom picture here, this is one of the artifacts in the Remember the Children exhibit, and it says only for Jews, and it's a bench. It's just something showing how much ownership, I guess you could say, of how of that they had over these people, and that there were certain benches that they had to use during that time. All right, so next I want to show you a video, a virtual tour of the museum. All right, so that is the end of my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.